9 Golden Age actresses who aged terribly. Number 1 is shocking. Hollywood promised them immortality. Their faces were frozen in time, flawless, glowing, unforgettable. But the camera stopped rolling, and time didn't. What happened next wasn't graceful aging. It was collapse. These women were once the most beautiful faces on earth, worshipped, copied, untouchable. Yet behind the glamour, addiction, fear, plastic surgery, and brutal studio pressure carved them into shadows of who they once were. Tonight, we're pulling back the illusion to reveal 9 Golden Age actresses whose transformations shocked even Hollywood itself. And trust me, number 1 is so extreme, you may not even recognize her. Veronica Lake, the girl Hollywood erased. In 1941, Veronica Lake didn't just appear on movie screens, she materialized. One cascading wave of blonde hair fell over a single eye, and in that moment, America collectively lost its breath. Women flooded salons demanding the Lake look. Men fell in love with a mystery they couldn't fully see. At just 4'11", she was physically small, yet impossibly powerful, a living illusion engineered for black and white film and soft studio lighting. Hollywood crowned her the girl with the perfect face, and for a brief, incandescent moment, it felt true. Eternal, untouchable. But perfection in Hollywood is not a gift, it's a deadline. Behind the camera, Veronica was already unraveling. Fame arrived fast, and so did resentment, pressure, and a reputation for being difficult in an industry that tolerated nothing less than obedience from its women. Roles dried up. Audiences moved on. And as the spotlight dimmed, something darker took its place. Alcohol didn't just comfort her, it consumed her. Slowly at first, then visibly, the hypnotic blue eyes dulled. The flawless skin thickened and bloated. The iconic hair, the very symbol of her stardom, became brittle, damaged, and eventually vanished altogether. Hollywood noticed, and Hollywood turned away. By the early 1950s, less than a decade after her meteoric rise, Veronica Lake was no longer cast as a star, or cast at all. While her films continued to play, preserving her youth forever, reality showed no mercy. In 1962, a reporter found her not on a red carpet, but behind a bar, working as a cocktail waitress in a New York hotel. The photographs were devastating. The woman staring back from the lens looked decades older than her age, her face swollen, her eyes hollow, her posture defeated. Fans didn't recognize her, and that was the most brutal cut of all. She tried to return. Hollywood recoiled. Late appearances shocked audiences who remembered the screen goddess. The face that once launched 1,000 imitations had become a roadmap of exhaustion, poverty, and abandonment. There was no triumphant comeback, no soft landing. Only survival. When Veronica Lake died in 1973 at just 50 years old, her body ravaged by years of alcoholism, the tragedy felt complete. The woman whose beauty defined an era disappeared long before her death, erased not by time alone, but by an industry that demanded perfection and discarded anything less. Veronica Lake learned the cruelest rule of Hollywood too late. When your face is your fortune, aging isn't just failure, it's exile. And this is only the beginning. Linda Darnell, beauty that burned too bright. When Linda Darnell arrived in Hollywood, she was barely old enough to understand what beauty could cost. Studio executives were so stunned by her face that they quietly adjusted the truth, aging her up on paper just to make her legal enough to exploit. With olive skin that seemed to glow under studio lights, dark eyes filled with quiet vulnerability, and features so perfectly balanced they looked sculpted rather than born, Linda wasn't just beautiful, she was dangerously beautiful. Directors said the camera adored her. Photographers claimed it was impossible to make her look bad. And for a while, Hollywood believed it had found something close to flawless. But flawlessness is a fragile thing. As the 1940s ended, the industry that had lifted Linda Darnell onto a pedestal began stepping back. Roles slowed. The admiration cooled. And in the silence that followed, insecurity crept in. Linda had been told her entire life that her face was her value, so when that value was no longer celebrated, she didn't know who she was without it. Alcohol became refuge, then routine, then dependency. The change came faster than anyone expected. Her luminous skin lost its clarity. Puffiness replaced delicacy. The effortless freshness that once required no makeup now demanded layers to imitate what had once been natural. Hollywood watched and quietly judged. Weight fluctuated. Confidence evaporated. The slender silhouette that once embodied elegance thickened under the pressure of depression and self-doubt. Her jawline softened, her eyes, once expressive and magnetic, seemed to retreat into a face that no longer recognized itself. By her mid-30s, Linda Darnell looked worn in a way that didn't match her years. This wasn't aging, it was erosion. The cruel kind that happens when identity collapses before the body is ready. What made her transformation so heartbreaking wasn't just how severe it was how early. While other actresses her age were still ascending, Linda was already slipping through Hollywood's fingers. The industry didn't offer help. It never does. It simply waited for beauty to fail, then moved on. And then, in a moment so tragic it feels almost symbolic, Linda Darnell's story ended in fire. In 1965, at just 41 years old, she was at home watching one of her old films on television, a ghost of her younger self flickering across the screen, when the house caught fire. Severe burns covered most of her body. She died the next day. The woman once celebrated for having the perfect face died while staring at the image of who she used to be. Hollywood promises immortality. Linda Darnell learned that it only delivers memory. Her beauty didn't fade slowly. It burned out, leaving behind a silence that still feels unbearably loud. Tallulah Bankhead, the flame that refused to dim. Tallulah Bankhead didn't enter Hollywood quietly, she stormed it. With aristocratic bone structure, piercing eyes, and a voice that rolled like velvet soaked in smoke, she was unlike anyone else on screen. Where other actresses were polished and obedient, Tallulah was dangerous, intelligent, sexual, uncontainable. Born into privilege and raised on rebellion, she carried herself like a woman who knew the rules and broke them on purpose. In her prime, she was electrifying, her beauty sharp rather than soft, her presence impossible to ignore. But Tallulah didn't just live loudly. She lived without breaks. From a young age, excess wasn't indulgence, it was identity. Cigarettes burned constantly between her fingers, sometimes 100 a day. Bourbon replaced water. Cocaine, amphetamines, sleepless nights, relentless parties, all worn like medals of honor. She joked about it, laughed it off, dared her body to keep up. And for a while it did. The flame burned hot, intoxicating, mesmerizing. But flames that burn hottest always consume their fuel fastest. The first betrayals were subtle. Fine lines carved themselves deep around her mouth, etched by decades of smoke. Her once luminous eyes grew heavy, bloodshot, dulled by exhaustion. And then came the voice, her greatest weapon. That deep, seductive instrument slowly roughened, cracking into something harsh, almost painful to hear. What once purred now rasped. It wasn't age alone. It was damage. Accumulated. Unforgiving. By her 40s, Tallulah's face no longer hid the cost of defiance. The elegance thinned into gauntness. Skin lost its glow, taking on a gray, lifeless cast no makeup could disguise. Teeth decayed. Her body shrank inward, fragile, skeletal, yet she refused to retreat. Youthful clothing still clung to her frame, defiant and almost tragic, as if daring the world to look away. Hollywood did, but Tallulah never did. She acknowledged nothing, changed nothing. Even as illness stacked upon illness, emphysema, pneumonia, malnutrition, she drank, smoked, laughed, and performed like tomorrow wasn't owed to her. In her final years, she moved like a woman haunted by her own body, jerky and unstable, the once magnificent presence now unsettling to behold. When she died in 1968, the causes read like a ledger of excess, her body systematically dismantled by the life she refused to apologize for. Tallulah Bankhead did not age, she paid. Paid for every night, every thrill, every rule broken without regret. And in the end, the flame that once lit up stages across the world burned itself into ash, unforgettable, unrepentant, and utterly destroyed by its own brilliance. Gabor. When fear of aging erased a woman, Zsa Zsa Gabor arrived in Hollywood like a living jewel, polished, radiant, and unapologetically extravagant. With her platinum hair, lush curves, and unmistakable European accent, she wasn't merely beautiful, she was theatrical beauty incarnate. Every entrance felt deliberate. Every smile suggested luxury. In an era obsessed with polished American glamour, Zsa Zsa offered something rarer: opulence with attitude. She didn't just want to be admired. She expected it. And for years, the world complied. But unlike many actresses, Zsa Zsa's greatest enemy was never obscurity, it was time itself. Aging terrified her. Not quietly, not philosophically, but viscerally. Where others feared being forgotten, she feared being seen as older. And so she fought time the only way Hollywood taught women to fight it: with knives, needles, and mirrors that lied. At first, the changes were subtle. A tightened jaw, smooth lines, the kind of maintenance Hollywood applauded. But subtlety was never Zsa Zsa's language. As decades passed, each procedure chased the last mistake. Cheekbones sharpened beyond nature. Skin pulled tighter than memory allowed. The face that once moved freely began to freeze, expressionless, mask-like, uncanny. Her lips, once flirtatious and proportioned, swelled into exaggerated shapes that no longer belonged to the woman behind them. What made the transformation so disturbing wasn't just how drastic it became, it was how unnecessary it was. Zsa Zsa was beautiful enough to age naturally and still command attention. Yet fear whispered louder than wisdom. Each attempt to preserve youth erased another trace of identity. By the 1980s and 90s, the woman audiences saw bore only a vague resemblance to the star they remembered. Her eyes appeared permanently surprised. Her smile no longer aligned with emotion. She had become a sculpture of herself, polished, artificial, hollow. Photographers documented the slow disappearance. Friends mourned it quietly. She didn't look any age, one said. She didn't look human. The irony was cruel. In trying to remain visible forever, Zsa Zsa Gabor made herself unrecognizable. The final years were marked by illness, a devastating car accident, a stroke, confinement. When she appeared publicly, fans felt shock, then sadness. Not because she was old, but because the woman they loved had vanished long before her body did. When Zsa Zsa Gabor died at 99, she left behind a cautionary monument to Hollywood's most poisonous lie, that youth is the only form of beauty worth preserving. Zsa Zsa didn't lose to age. She lost to the terror of it. And in trying to stop time, she disappeared inside it. Judy Garland, a child who was never allowed to grow. Judy Garland was never meant to age this fast. When she skipped down the yellow brick road, she wasn't just a movie star, she was a national heartbeat. 16 years old, round-faced, wide-eyed, overflowing with a sincerity Hollywood rarely manufactured, Judy looked like what she was, a child with a miraculous voice. Audiences adored her because she felt real. Studios despised her for the same reason. From the very beginning, Hollywood decided her natural self wasn't acceptable. Executives called her plain, problematic, too soft, too human. And so they reshaped her, not with surgery, but with chemistry. Diet pills to suppress hunger, amphetamines to keep her thin and energetic, barbiturates to knock her unconscious when the stimulants refused to let her sleep. All of it prescribed, all of it sanctioned. Judy wasn't choosing addiction, it was handed to her before she was old enough to understand the cost. The damage surfaced quickly. In her 20s, the glow began to drain from her face. The soft fullness of youth collapsed into sharpness. Dark circles carved themselves permanently beneath her eyes. Her skin dulled, stretched thin by exhaustion and dehydration. She was still young, but she looked tired in a way that frightened people. By her 30s, the transformation was undeniable. Weight swung wildly. Some days she appeared bloated and fragile. Others, terrifyingly gaunt. The camera no longer captured innocence, it captured survival. And the world watched. By 40, Judy Garland looked decades older than her age. Lines etched deep around her mouth and eyes, not from laughter, but from strain. Her hair lost its shine, hidden beneath wigs meant to recreate the girl audiences refused to let go of. Most heartbreaking of all were her eyes, once bursting with warmth, now clouded by fatigue, grief, and the quiet knowledge that she was running out of time. Hollywood called her difficult, unreliable. The truth was simpler: she was exhausted beyond repair. When Judy Garland died in 1969 at just 47 years old, the autopsy read like that of an elderly woman. Liver damage, heart failure, organs worn down by decades of chemical warfare waged in the name of entertainment. The industry that profited from her youth had aged her beyond recognition, then acted surprised when her body gave up. Judy Garland didn't age poorly. She was aged prematurely by a system that fed a child drugs and called it professionalism. The girl who promised there was no place like home never made it back. And Hollywood, once again, rolled the credits and moved on. Bette Davis, the eyes that carried too much. Bette Davis never relied on softness. She conquered Hollywood with force, sharp cheekbones, unblinking intensity, and eyes so expressive they seemed to speak before her mouth ever moved. They were her weapon, her signature, her soul exposed on screen. While others played beauty, Bette commanded presence. In an industry obsessed with perfection, she was unapologetically difficult, brilliant, and unforgettable. But even the strongest instruments were down. From early on, Bette lived the kind of life Hollywood quietly glorified and publicly punished. Endless work, relentless pressure, heavy smoking, packs a day, and alcohol as routine as rehearsals. The damage appeared first in her skin. Lines came early, deep and unapologetic, carving themselves into a face that had once registered every flicker of emotion with surgical precision. By her late 40s, her skin had lost its elasticity, aging decades ahead of schedule. Then came the betrayals no willpower could fight. In her 60s, a devastating stroke partially paralyzed the left side of her face. Speech shifted. Muscles sagged. The eyes, those legendary eyes, no longer moved with the same freedom. Their brilliance dulled, not from lack of spirit, but from neurological damage and years of abuse. Just weeks later, cancer followed. Surgery, recovery, exhaustion. Each blow stripped away another layer of what the camera once worshipped. And yet, Bette refused to disappear. She returned to the screen, fragile but defiant. Close-ups revealed everything Hollywood usually hid: thinning hair, deep wrinkles, uneven expressions. Her face no longer obeyed her commands, but her will never surrendered. Watching her perform in her final years was like watching a master pianist play with injured hands. The artistry intact, the instrument betrayed. Bette Davis knew exactly what was happening to her. When asked about her appearance, she didn't flinch. "I earned every one of these wrinkles," she said. And she meant it. There was no denial, no desperate disguise. Only confrontation. She faced the camera the same way she faced aging, head-on, unfiltered, unforgiving. When she died in 1989, her body bore the scars of decades lived without mercy. Smoking. Just illness. But what remained undeniable was this: the fire behind those eyes never truly went out, even as the eyes themselves faded. Bette Davis didn't age gently. She aged honestly. And in an industry built on illusion, that honesty was almost revolutionary. Joan Crawford, the face that became a mask. Joan Crawford didn't just rise in Hollywood, she engineered herself into it. Born without privilege, she built her stardom molecule by molecule, discipline by discipline, mirror by mirror. Her face was architecture: sharp cheekbones, commanding eyes, a mouth sculpted to express ambition itself. In the 1930s and 40s, that face became a brand. A silhouette alone was enough to identify her. Joan Crawford wasn't merely photographed, she was constructed for light and shadow. And once constructed, she refused to let time dismantle her. From early adulthood, Joan declared war on aging. Long before wrinkles appeared, she treated her face like a battlefield. Ice water rituals, harsh astringents, alcohol-based toners meant to tighten skin at any cost. What worked in the short term quietly destroyed elasticity beneath the surface. She wasn't preserving youth, she was borrowing against it. And the interest would come due. As the decades passed, maintenance turned into obsession. Eyebrows plucked away and redrawn higher, sharper, more severe. Makeup layered not to enhance, but to rebuild, contouring a face that no longer moved the way it once had. Alcohol entered the equation, accelerating everything. Dehydration, broken capillaries, puffiness. To counter it, she applied more makeup. Heavier, thicker, until the face no longer reflected emotion, only effort. By the 1960s, the transformation was impossible to ignore. The jaw that once symbolized strength appeared rigid, almost artificial. The mouth held its famous shape even when she wasn't speaking, frozen into permanence. Her eyes, once magnetic, stared out from beneath dramatically arched brows that created a constant expression of alarm. What had once been power now read as strain. She knew. And she hated it. Joan didn't retreat immediately. She fought harder. Controlled lighting. Controlled angles. Controlled appearances. But time doesn't negotiate. In her final years, she withdrew from public view almost entirely. When rare photographs surfaced, even devoted fans struggled to recognize her. The face that defined an era had become a mask, meticulously painted, emotionally distant, exhausted. Before her death in 1977, Joan Crawford left strict instructions. No public viewing, no photographs. A final act of control from a woman who spent her life managing how the world saw her. She understood the truth too well. In Hollywood, once the illusion cracks, mercy disappears. Joan Crawford didn't age naturally. She didn't age gracefully. She aged defiantly, until defiance itself hardened into disguise. Her tragedy wasn't vanity. It was the terror of being seen without armor. And when the mask finally came off, Hollywood looked away. Gloria Swanson, aging without permission. Gloria Swanson was once cinema itself. In the silent era, her face wasn't just admired, it was studied. Directors filmed her from every angle because there was no wrong one. Smooth skin, luminous eyes, perfectly balanced features. She represented a level of beauty so idealized it felt unreal. On screen, she would never age. That was the promise Hollywood made to its audience. And unknowingly, the trap it set for her. Unlike so many others, Gloria Swanson didn't disappear when the industry shifted. She adapted. She survived the transition from silent films to sound. And when she returned triumphantly in Sunset Boulevard, she did so at 50, an age when Hollywood usually erased women entirely. But what made Gloria truly radical wasn't longevity. It was her refusal to lie. She chose to age naturally. No surgical tightening. No frozen expressions. No desperate reconstruction. She ate well, exercised, avoided alcohol and cigarettes, and took care of her body in ways that should have rewarded her with good aging. And physically, they did. Gloria was healthy, strong, clear-minded. But Hollywood wasn't prepared for what natural aging actually looks like, especially on a face once declared perfect. As the years passed, the changes were undeniable. The smooth oval softened. Jowls appeared. Lines etched themselves across a face that had once existed only in fantasy. Her neck, a detail actresses were taught to hide at all costs, aged openly. And suddenly, the same industry that once worshipped her began to whisper that she had aged terribly. Not because she had failed, but because she had refused to cheat. In her 70s, Gloria Swanson continued to appear publicly, calmly, confidently, without apology. Side-by-side images of her youth and old age shocked audiences. But the shock said more about us than it did about her. We weren't seeing decline. We were seeing reality collide with illusion. A woman aging as all humans do, contrasted against celluloid immortality. She understood the paradox better than anyone. In her own words, she warned against chasing youth long after it no longer fit, calling such attempts grotesque imitations rather than beauty. Gloria didn't surrender to age, she accepted it. And in Hollywood, acceptance is considered rebellion. When she died in 1983 at 84, Obituaries framed her life as a transformation, from goddess to old woman. What they failed to say was that she never became less, only more real. Her so-called terrible aging was simply the courage to be seen without disguise. Gloria Swanson didn't lose to time. She exposed the lie that time itself is the enemy. And in an industry addicted to illusion, that truth was the most shocking transformation of all. Mae West, the woman who refused to disappear. Mae West never played a role, she was the role. From the moment she stepped onto the screen in the 1930s, she rewrote the rules of Hollywood femininity. Hourglass curves, platinum hair, painted lips, and a voice dripping with innuendo. Mae didn't just sell sex appeal, she owned it. More importantly, she controlled it. In an era when women were objects of desire, Mae West was the author of desire itself. She wasn't innocent. She wasn't subtle. And she was unforgettable. But Mae made one decision that would define the rest of her life. She refused to evolve. As time moved forward, Mae stayed locked in place. Not emotionally, not intellectually, but visually. While other actresses adapted, softened, or retreated into age-appropriate identities, Mae chose defiance. To her, aging didn't mean transformation, it meant denial. She would remain the bombshell, no matter the decade, no matter the cost. The wigs stayed platinum. The gowns stayed skin-tight. The corsets grew tighter as her body grew older. The makeup thickened, heavier each year, not to enhance, but to freeze. By her 60s, the illusion had begun to fracture. The once playful exaggeration of her look hardened into something uncanny. Hair became architectural. Makeup formed a rigid shell that barely moved when she spoke. The famous curves were held together by industrial-strength corsetry that limited her movement, turning sensual confidence into visible strain. Yet Mae refused to blink. She continued presenting herself as a sexual force long after Hollywood had decided older women should vanish quietly. And that made people uncomfortable. By the 1970s, when Mae West was in her 80s, the transformation was complete and shocking. She no longer resembled a woman aging. She resembled a wax replica of her younger self, slowly melting under the lights. Her final film appearances were painful to watch. Dialogue dubbed, movement restricted, the persona intact, but the body beneath it struggling to survive the performance. Yet here's the uncomfortable truth. Mae West wasn't tragic because she looked strange. She was tragic because Hollywood never allowed her another option. She built a persona so powerful it became a prison, and instead of escaping it, she decorated it, defended it, and lived inside it until the end. When Mae West died in 1980 at 87, she had never stopped being Mae West. Not for a second. Not even when the illusion cost her dignity, comfort, and peace. She refused invisibility. She refused retreat. She refused to apologize for wanting to be desired. Mae West didn't age terribly. She aged loudly, defiantly, and without permission. And in doing so, she forced the world to confront a question it still struggles to answer. Why does an aging woman claiming sexuality disturb us more than an industry that destroys women for daring to grow old? Hollywood sells us a lie, that beauty is forever, and aging is failure. These women weren't destroyed by time alone. They were crushed by an industry that worshipped youth, punished humanity, and walked away the moment perfection cracked. Some tried to fight aging. Some surrendered to it. Some were never even given the choice. But every one of them paid a price for being seen and for being replaced. So before we judge how they aged, maybe we should ask why the world demanded they never age at all. If this story changed how you see Hollywood, beauty, or time itself, leave a comment, share this video, and tell us. Which transformation shocked you the most, and why?